What's up, everyone? Hope you're doing good out there. It looks like I got some time to try to look at this next week of astrology, so we're gonna do that. It's a Tuesday, though. Seems like the good times to do this video are kind of moving earlier and earlier in the week, but it is what it is. So thanks for listening to my video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for participating out there. It's pretty cool. So, looking at the rest of this week, it does really ramp up, and I am getting more excited for Mars to go into Pisces. I think that'll be pretty cool. So, let's pray to God that He'll give us wisdom and understanding, that we can understand this mystery to the glory of His name. In the name of Jesus, Amen. So. Let's take a look here. So we start out on Sunday with the moon in Scorpio. The moon is in Scorpio. We've got these planets both in Pisces and in Taurus. The moon is aspecting. And then we have this nice interaction with Mercury and Venus. Mercury is in Venus' sign. Venus is in her own exaltation sign. And Jupiter is there as well. So probably doing okay, at least. Mercury probably feeling kind of erratic with the Mercury stuff being so close to Uranus. So we got Jupiter and Mercury really close to Uranus and Neptune. Pretty far out stuff, honestly. I think we've been building up to this moon on the south node for a while, and the next next time the moon is here, there'll be a lunar eclipse. The Mercury will be retrograde, so it's definitely a dynamic moment, for sure. So what else we have this week? The sun goes into Taurus on Tuesday, but we'll get to that. I'm looking forward to that. The sun moving out of my 8th house, that'll be cool for me personally. So overall on Sunday, looks like it feels pretty nice. It's kind of weird, kind of crazy, kind of out there kind of stuff going on. But on Monday, the moon will be applying a square to Saturn, so feeling pretty heavy in the morning. And I guess we got Venus sextiling Uranus there too. So this Mercury-Venus sextile is on top of Uranus. So we got a lot of planets on top of the outer planets here. And the sun squaring Pluto there just adds another layer of perhaps heaviness, or there's like a very dynamic moment here with these two power players, the sun and Pluto. Yep. And then the moon squares Saturn, so it feels pretty heavy in the morning. But as we go throughout the rest of the day, the moon will make a trine to Neptune and a trine to Jupiter. The moon will go over the south node too. So probably leading up to the early afternoon, it feels pretty heavy, it feels pretty weird. You got Neptune and the south node there, which perfected, I think on like the 14th to the 15th of April, the Neptune node thing. But going through the day, it probably feels okay. Probably feels alright there with the moon separating from the malefics, not applying to Mars yet, but as the moon goes through the rest of the day, I don't know, probably feels okay. But the moon will go into Sagittarius in the evening, and will immediately apply to Mars. So there's definitely like a sense of discomfort or passion, and depending on your sect consideration there. in the evening, so probably doesn't feel too great for some people. But on the rest of Tuesday, the moon will be applying to Venus, so probably feels pretty awesome, honestly, after that. Feeling like... Have you been feeling like things are just really still pretty intense and not too fun, but we are having fun at the same time, and it's kind of weird. On Sunday, it must have been Sunday afternoon, I was out walking around. I went to the gym and I walked around afterwards, and it was very idyllic sort of mood. I think it was like the beginning of the Leo moon on Sunday there, and it was so like peaceful, and like the blossoms were coming out of the trees, and it was like the perfect temperature and breeze, and like all that was going on. But like if you listen out in the distance, like to what people are saying, like there's people around me like on the phone talking to each other, and it was just talking about the problem, just like all the bad stuff that's happening, like the fees and the sickness and all the Mars Saturn stuff is super heavy, or at least it was, and we probably are moving out of that. So maybe on Tuesday we like really think we can have a good time or something like that. But the sun moving into Taurus will be nice for the people that like that. Yeah, I mean, I've had a kind of like had trouble thinking about the sun as like a personal planet, because the sun, I mean, I think for me is kind of a difficult energy, even though it kind of like dominates my whole chart. But our energy is like we kind of take on this more Venusian flair, I guess. And I'll go ahead and say, like, studying mundane astrology, like the real, I guess like the William Ramsey book, that's really the only older text I've read. I've not read Bonatti, really. Like, I see the sun and the moon a lot differently now, I think is what I'm getting to. And, we'll leave that one alone for a sec. But on Wednesday, so Tuesday, nothing really going on. Maybe we're trying to have fun. It's kind of not accessible, but like we're really going for it all day, it looks like, with the moon applying to Venus. But on Wednesday, on April 20th, the moon will be in a sextile to Saturn, and then it's making a square to Neptune and Jupiter. So maybe it's a little a little cold, a little under the weather there. It just could, I don't know. For a lot of people, I think it'll feel like really well knit together, but very mystical and strange, with the moon still in Sagittarius. The moon Sagittarius is doing well with Jupiter being in Pisces, so it's far out, it goes far, but it may be with the moon also being a sextile to Saturn, it's well structured, and we can really look forward to that, I think. So the moon will go into Capricorn in the evening, late evening, and then move immediately into the trine with the sun. So the sun is in Taurus, the moon's in Capricorn. Maybe we feel like more industrious during this time. I was thinking about this image in my mind of like what the moon in Capricorn is like, and kind of what Capricorn is like. You ever seen those like maybe people can relate to it, like in like a military movie, there's like a barbed wire like enclosure that's like a foot off the ground, and like you see the soldiers like kind of like going through the mud, just kind of crawling through the wet mud. That's kind of what the moon in Capricorn can be like. The moon in Capricorn can be cynical, but I think it's like more realistic of just like what we have to go through and such type of things. But so the Saturn will be at the square to the north and the south node. The moon is applying to Mars, Mars in Pisces. So there's something like wet and gross about this morning. Just kind of trudging through the wetness, the coldness here, the overall sense of things being radically restructured for the future with the Saturn node thing, because the Saturn node thing will be kind of in play all of the eclipse times. So, and I guess I'll show you that, because I mean, since the Sun and Saturn have finished their sextile, you know, there won't be too long before Saturn is retrograde. And I wonder what that story will tell with the nodes, because the nodes are retrograde, Saturn's retrograde. You know, Saturn nodes is a story that plays out for many months, I think. So let's take some points off here. The classic removing the points section. Yeah, so Saturn nodes definitely going on, and Uranus is in the mix there too, so we definitely get this for a long time. Even does it even go so far as the next eclipse season? So yeah, definitely gonna be going on for a while. But maybe if we really are paying attention this week, we can tell something about that for the future. Okay, so I kind of like the Sag moon. I could be wrong about that, but I like the Scorpio moon too. But that's really more of the previous week we've covered. So the moon will be in Capricorn, making a sextile to all this Pisces stuff. So it's probably pretty mystical, pretty otherworldly, as we kind of do for the day chart people, kind of the necessary stuff. Probably better for the day chart people once the moon is separating from Mars, but you know, the moon doesn't really do anything all this day. It probably just feels very unworldly, feels very big with Saturn squaring the nodes. We're kind of like really getting a good taste of that here. So the moon will be in Capricorn there, and then makes a trine to Uranus, alright, and then the moon will make a sextile to Venus early on Friday morning, and then we get that trine to Mercury in Taurus here. So Friday, you know, we get moon nodes, we perfect the sextile of the moon to Jupiter and Neptune, and then the moon conjoins Pluto. So moon, Venus, Mercury nodes, Neptune, Jupiter, Pluto. So if we were kind of in anticipation on Thursday, we'd probably see more of these things taking place on Friday. And I think Friday is pretty good. Friday is pretty great if you like the Capricorn moon stuff. So nothing else to say about that. So Friday is what it is, and then the moon goes into Aquarius, and then makes the square to the sun, and that's really all that is there on Saturday. So the moon will be in Aquarius, making only the square to the sun. So we've gone through a lot this month. We've done a lot from the Aries moon. You know, now we're coming up on the solar eclipse. So and Mars will be in a sextile to the solar eclipse. We'll look at that too. You know, I've been thinking about, just like learning mundane astrology alongside of like the more ancient techniques like zodiacal releasing that we all know about. And for me, really, the mundane astrology things are more philosophically deep or rich or maybe hard to integrate than the zodiacal releasing stuff. I mean, I think they're both really mind blowing, but you can just tell so much with mundane astrology and aspects to eclipses from the malevolent planets. So I don't know. It's one of those things like how long has all this stuff like been known about, and kind of the philosophical conclusion I've contemplated a lot is like kind of as long as people can do math, really. And that's pretty far out for me, but so the moon will be with Saturn kind of just like soaking in all of this. Saturn is perhaps influencing something about the nodal point. Mercury is there at the north node too. Mercury is doing something there with Algol, so Mercury will be entering shadow next week, I think. Must be, meaning that he'll be past the point where he'll retrograde back to in terms of the ecliptic. So that is that. But I guess I got a couple more things to look at with you then. So I guess like how close will Mars be to that eclipse? That's one question I have. So Mars is at 12 degrees. The eclipse is at 11 degrees. Okay. So perhaps this. So 11 degrees for sure for the eclipse. 10. At least it's not the Algol eclipse. Remember how much of that, like, during the Algol eclipse or, like, afterwards, we had all that, like, AI-generated pictures? I did not like that. I was very uncomfortable by that. I did not like that. It's kind of like, and I think everybody was pretty sick of it pretty quick when we never saw it again. But, maybe something like that comes up again. That kind of thing. I mean, it's not like directly on that star this time, but you see that Mars is already past this eclipse. But I think, if something very damaging comes from it, it'll probably happen pretty fast. Because Mars is so close to that point, and Saturn is square to that point, so probably very very unwieldy, very unearthly events happening, even very soon. And then Saturn will really be on that. So probably whatever comes out of the eclipse is very structurally important, has a long-lasting, long-term effect. Oh, and then when does Mars come to this point? So it's at 10 degrees. So it's in July before Leo season into Cancer season. And when does Mars aspect this eclipse point? So this eclipse is at 28. No. It's at 24. So we got the sun on Algol here for the lunar eclipse, and Mars is in the trine again. So, very malevolent eclipse, very bad stuff going on. I'm sure. So, and then Mars will oppose that here. So it looks pretty rough, looks pretty rocky. I mean, we definitely see more of it like happening, coming out like later on this year, like in a few months, but we probably see a lot of the damaging stuff that comes out of this eclipse happen pretty quick, with both Mars and Saturn aspecting these points. Let's see. Does Jupiter witness the eclipse? Not really. So like Jupiter is in Aries during this eclipse, lunar eclipse, and Scorpio. So Jupiter's not really involved. It seems very, very, very Mars Venus stuff going on this one. And you have the Mars Jupiter mutual reception here too, kind of holding that up. So I mean, Jupiter like somehow has like an involvement, and Venus has an involvement in both of the eclipses, but I think the way they're beheld by the malevolent planets is it's there, it's stark, it's a real thing. They're pretty close to the degree, like within a few degrees, if not applying, then at least present somehow. I think I wanted to look at the path of Mercury in the sky once again. Because I don't really remember. So on April 10th, Mercury crossed the ecliptic going upwards, so for the Mercurials probably things got a little bit lighter, a little bit there's still a lot of movement here before we do finally come to this Mercury retrograde. So Mercury will be crossing the ecliptic downward on May 17th, thereabouts. And Mercury does this like kind of like cuts into like it does like a little loop, like a tiniest little loop down there below the ecliptic. So down there in June times, so this will be like kind of coming towards the end of Cancer season when Mercury is really stationary. Then we'll see. Oh nope, I'm wrong about that. Never mind. So it's in the middle of Gemini season that Mercury really picks up some speed again. Okay, y'all, definitely pretty heavy topics this time. Is there anything else I really wanted to look at with y'all? Not for this video. I mean, we kind of went from the week to beyond here, but I have a few ideas. I want to look at some particular charts of some interesting things from the past. So maybe I'll get around to making that video. Maybe not, but hopefully y'all will have a good, interesting week. But definitely with this moon just applying to Saturn. Is Saturn the next aspect there? To Uranus, but really the next aspect of the moon is the conjunction to Saturn. So next Sunday looks pretty heavy. It looks pretty, harrowing in a way. With Mercury squaring Saturn, it's just very, very heavy, very fatal kind of energy as we begin next week. But, I think next week probably has its good moments too. But, watch yourself this week. I hope you have a good time. I do appreciate you all so much. So, much love. And I'll be seeing you. Peace.